Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive into a recipe that's a really cool fusion of Italian and Cajun cooking. It's Cajun chicken and shrimp pasta.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I'm already excited about this one.
Yeah, this is one of my
Who
favorites.
doesn't love a creamy pasta dish? But then throw in some of that spicy Cajun kick. I
Exactly.
think this is going to be amazing.
I think you're right. It's a really interesting combination. You don't see those flavors together that often, but trust me, it really works. The richness of the cream and the Parmesan cheese balances so well with the heat from all the Cajun spices. And the
Oh,
best part is, you can definitely make this at home.
awesome.
You don't need to be like a professional chef or anything like that.
That's what I like to hear. So let's break down this recipe. First up, the ingredients. We got fettuccine pasta, chicken breast, shrimp, bell peppers, garlic, and of course the Cajun seasoning. So far, it seemed like a pretty straightforward list.
Yeah, it is. I think that's one of the things that makes this recipe so approachable. You probably already have most of these ingredients at home in your pantry. But even though the ingredients are simple, combining all these flavors and textures to make them really sing, that's the tricky part.
Okay, now I'm really curious. So before we get into the cooking steps,
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about what makes Cajun seasoning so special? What is it about those spices that create that signature Cajun flavor?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So usually Cajun seasoning has paprika, cayenne pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, and oregano. But what really makes it special is the balance of all those spices together. They create this complex flavor profile that's savory and spicy and also kind of earthy at the same time.
Interesting. So it's not just about the spice level. It's also about the way all those different flavors work together.
Exactly.
Okay, now I'm ready to get cooking.
Right.
Where do we start?
Well, first things first, we got to get the pasta going. So cook the fettuccine according to whatever the package directions say. You want it to be al dente, of course. And while the pasta is cooking, we can prep the chicken and the shrimp.
Okay, al dente pasta.
Mhm.
They're like the most important thing for a good pasta dish. Now I have a feeling you're going to tell me to save some of that pasta water.
You know me too well.
Yeah.
That starchy pasta water is like liquid gold. It makes the sauce
Yes.
so much smoother and it helps
Right.
it cling to the pasta so much better. Trust me, it makes a huge difference. Save like half a cup.
Okay, pasta water saved. Now on to the chicken and shrimp. Do we cook those together or separately?
Separately. We want to make sure that each protein is cooked evenly and that both of them are cooked just the right amount. So first we're going to saute the chicken in a little bit of olive oil, cook it until it's golden brown and cooked all the way through, and season it well with salt and pepper and also a little bit of Cajun seasoning.
Got it. Okay, so the chicken is browning, the pasta's bubbling away. I can practically smell those Cajun spices. It's making me so hungry.
I know, me too.
What's next?
Now it's time for the shrimp. These cook really quickly, so make sure you keep an eye on them. You're going to saute them in the same pan that you used for the chicken. All those little brown bits in the pan are going to add a ton of flavor. Cook the shrimp until they turn pink and opaque. That should only take like 2 or 3 minutes per side. But don't overcook them or they'll get tough and rubbery.
Avoid the rubbery shrimp.
Yeah.
Got it. So now we have our pasta, our chicken, and our shrimp. What about that creamy cheesy sauce? I'm ready for all the flavors.
Okay, you and me both. Now for the really fun part. In the same pan that we used for the chicken and the shrimp, we're going to saute the bell peppers and the garlic until they're soft. Then we're going to add the Cajun seasoning and let it cook for like a minute or two. You're going to smell the most amazing aroma.
Ooh, I can't wait. So we add the spices before the cream and cheese.
Exactly. This helps bring out the flavor of the spices. Once the spices are nice and fragrant, pour in the heavy cream and let it simmer. And then gradually whisk in the Parmesan cheese until it's all melted and the sauce is nice and smooth.
Okay, so this is where it all comes together. I can just imagine that super creamy sauce with that little kick of spice. What's the last step?
It's time for the grand finale. Add the cooked pasta, the chicken and the shrimp to the sauce, and toss it gently. You want to make sure everything is coated in sauce. And now remember that pasta water we saved?
Yeah.
Add a splash or two of that to the sauce to loosen it up a bit.
That pasta water is like magic.
It is. Then season everything with salt and pepper, and for a nice little touch of freshness, sprinkle on some chopped parsley.
This sounds incredible. Simple steps, but big flavor. And I love that we only use one pan for the whole dish, less dishes to wash.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of maximizing flavor, do you have any other tips or tricks to really elevate this dish?
Let me think. Well, first, if you like things extra spicy, A pinch of cayenne pepper will definitely do the trick.
Now, more spice is always good in my book.
Right.
And
Use freshly grated Parmesan cheese. It melts so much better, and the flavor is so much richer. It's definitely worth the extra effort.
okay, noted. Freshly grated cheese. Anything else?
And lastly, and we've already talked about this, but I can't stress enough how important it is not to overcook the shrimp. You want them to be tender and juicy, not rubbery.
Right.
If you're not sure, it's always better to undercook them a little bit. They'll finish cooking in the sauce.
Perfect. I feel like I can make this recipe right now.
I think you can.
And for our listeners who are ready to try this Cajun-Italian fusion, where can they find the full recipe?
You can find it on eateveryslice.com. It has all the measurements and instructions you need.
Awesome. So we've covered the ingredients, the cooking process, and all your pro tips. Now I think it's time to dive a little deeper. What makes this dish stand out from other pasta recipes?
Well, I think it's the unexpected combination of flavors and textures. You have the creamy, cheesy goodness of Italian cuisine, and then you have the bold, spicy flavors of Cajun cooking.
Yeah, like two completely different culinary traditions coming together in one dish. You know, it's really interesting to think about how this dish kind of brings together like two different culinary traditions. So you have the creamy, cheesy goodness that you always find in Italian cuisine. And then on the other hand, you have the bold, spicy flavors of Cajun cooking. It's like a culinary mashup of two different worlds.
It really is. It's a great example of how food can reflect like the history and the cultural exchanges of a place.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, Italian cuisine is known for its simplicity and using fresh ingredients, and obviously the emphasis on pasta. But what about Cajun cuisine? Where do those unique flavors come from?
So Cajun cuisine has roots in Louisiana, and the flavors are really influenced by French, African, and Native American traditions. It's like a real melting pot of different influences.
So then this dish, Cajun chicken and shrimp pasta, it's like its own little melting pot. You're taking those classic Italian elements like the pasta and creamy sauce, and then you add that Cajun spice to it.
Yeah, and I think it really speaks to the evolution of American cuisine. It shows how American cuisine has taken flavors and techniques from all over the world and created something totally new and different.
It's like each ingredient in this dish has its own story. And when they all come together in this dish, it's like they're telling a whole new story.
Exactly. And that story is all about embracing diversity and experimenting with flavors. It's about going beyond what we normally think of as traditional cuisine.
It's like a reminder that food isn't just about eating. It's a way to express culture and history and creativity.
It really makes you wonder, what other culinary fusions are out there? Like, what would happen if we started mixing different culinary traditions in new ways?
Yeah, that's a great question. What about you, listeners? Have you ever tried a dish that combined different culinary traditions in an unexpected way? We'd love to hear about it. You can share your thoughts on social media or visit eateveryslice.com to find more fusion recipes.
So we've talked a lot about the history and the cultural significance of this dish. But let's get back to the practical side of things for a minute. Are you ready to share some tips and tricks to help our listeners master this recipe?
I am definitely ready. Let's give our listeners all the knowledge they need to create this culinary masterpiece at home. What are some of the key things to keep in mind? All right, so we've talked about the history, the ingredients, the cooking process. Now I want to know, what are some of your pro tips that are really going to help our listeners, like, nail this recipe? What will help them impress their family and friends?
Okay, well, one of the most important things to remember is the pasta water. Don't just drain it and forget about it. That starchy water is like magic for your sauce.
Oh yeah, we talked about saving some. Can you remind me how much we should save and how we actually use it?
Yeah, so I recommend saving about half a cup of the pasta water right before you drain the pasta. And then when you're adding the cheese to the cream sauce, you add the pasta water in slowly, a little at a time. And you want to whisk it constantly. This helps create a smoother sauce that will coat the pasta better.
So it's all about that gradual incorporation and whisking.
Yeah.
Got it. What about the spice level? Can we adjust that?
Yeah, for sure. If you want it to be less spicy, start with just a tablespoon of Cajun seasoning. You can always add more later if you need to. And for anyone who likes it really spicy, add a pinch of cayenne pepper. Or if you're feeling adventurous, dice up a jalapeno and add that to the peppers and garlic while they're sauteing.
Okay, spice adjustments, check. Earlier, we were talking about not overcooking the shrimp. How can our listeners tell when the shrimp are cooked perfectly?
You want to keep a close eye on them while they're cooking.
Yeah.
They cook fast. As soon as they turn pink and opaque, they're done. Oh, and also, if you see them curling up tightly, that also means they're overcooked. It's better to undercook them a little than overcook them because they'll continue cooking in the sauce.
So timing and attention to detail are key with the shrimp.
Okay, got it. Any other advice before we wrap things up?
Cooking isn't really an exact science. It's more like an art. So don't be afraid to experiment a little and make this recipe your own. Taste it as you go, adjust the seasoning, add a little more cream if you want. Just have fun with it.
Yeah, I love that. It's not just about following a recipe, exactly. It's about taking that recipe and making it your own.
Right.
You could add some lemon juice for brightness.
Right.
You could add some lemon juice for brightness. Or maybe some red pepper flakes for more heat.
Exactly. You could even experiment with different kinds of pasta, like
Yeah.
penne or rigatoni, or add different veggies.
So many possibilities. I think that's what makes cooking so fun. It's not just about the food at the end, it's about the process and being creative.
Yeah, and at the end, you get to share that delicious food with people you love. Couldn't have said it better myself. I am so inspired to get cooking.
Mm.
Listeners, remember, you can find the full recipe for this Cajun chicken and shrimp pasta and tons of other amazing recipes on eateveryslice.com. Don't forget to share pictures of your culinary creations on social media. We love seeing what you all come up with.
Until next time, happy cooking. Keep experimenting, keep exploring, and keep those taste buds happy.
And remember, there's a whole world of flavors out there waiting to be discovered, one bite at a time. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.